Hi everyone, welcome. This is Caitlin from grassfedgirl.com, and today we're going to be talking to Christina Rice about her carnivore journey. She is an experimenter and an NTP in San Diego. She has tried all kinds of things and she's going to share her knowledge with us. Welcome, Christina.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you, and we are just so excited that you can come on and share with us today about your journey. And So tell us a little bit about how you got started and what you're going to talk to us about today.
Yeah, well, I think like many people who find carnivore, I've been on a very long health journey. I know you have as well. And most of my life, I struggled with pretty bad digestive issues and mental health issues, anxiety, depression. And then when I hit college, things really hit ahead and my digestion basically just stopped working. And I had a really bad leaky gut. I lost about 50 pounds in 3 months, and the doctors didn't know what was going on. And they told me I was going to die, and it was just a whole mess. So then that kind of led me into the paleo diet and learning about food as medicine and rehealing the gut. And that's when I started with a whole foods approach and healing my body that way. And then over the next couple of years, it was a series of finding out that I had SIBO and Candida and parasites and heavy metals toxicity and mold toxicity and hypothyroidism and all of these things. And always just horrible bloating was like one of the main symptoms I dealt with. And that's what led me to trying carnivore about a year ago. It was the first time I tried carnivore. And over the years I've tried so many different types of diets within paleo. And I was keto for about 3 years. So I basically started off paleo keto. Um, and I tried carnivore about a year ago when I was hearing about Sean Baker and all these people who had just chronic illness and really bad digestive issues healing with the carnivore diet. So I said, let me just try it out. I did it for about 2 weeks, and I like loved it at first, and at the end of 2 weeks I just started not feeling very well. I felt really toxic in my head, but at the beginning it was like all my bloating went away. I had so much energy. My mood was so great. Like I just felt like I was on happy pills. I don't know if you've experienced that too. It's just like my body, I'm sure, was still evening out. Um, But I ended up stopping at the end of 2 weeks, which I should have just pushed through. I was having really bad cravings for vegetables and chocolate
Right.
and all
Should have just
things.
text me. I would have
I know.
talked you through it.
I know. I think because I went into the mindset of it, like saying, oh, I'm just going to do it for a week or two, I gave myself that permission to stop. But I was getting really bad head symptoms. And after that, I found out that I have a CBS mutation and it was acting up, so I needed to do a little more support with my body to be able to handle all of that meat. Um, so then I did that and then didn't go back to carnivore and was just doing my thing for the last year. And then just hit a point about a couple months ago where I was just reacting to every food and my food list was just getting smaller and smaller. And my doctor, recommended I go ketogenic and low histamine. And I'm like, well, at this point, it's easier for me to go carnivore. Like, and I enjoy meat. I love meat. So that's what brought me to trying carnivore this time. And so, it's this time it's been about 6 weeks. And I have cheated a couple times in the last week, which I regret. But feeling so much better in this last month than I have in a very, very long time. So that's kind of like where I'm at right now.
Wow, that's so amazing. Like, I think people look at you and they think, well, she's so young, there's nothing wrong with her, you know. Do you ever get that?
Yeah, I think it just goes with the invisible illness thing too. You can't always tell how someone's health is just by looking at them. And yeah, I am young and I feel grateful that I got hit with so many health issues at a young age because I pulled myself together like when I was 20, and I'd rather do it now than later on when it's too late, you know? And I think, you know, I like bringing awareness to all of this to other people who are my age or younger, who, I mean, I really think everybody should start paying attention to their health when they're a lot younger than they do. You know, people say, oh, just eat whatever you want, you're young. Well, no, how we eat when we're young, like, informs our health when we're older, you know? So I don't want to wake up when I'm, you know, 50, 60 and think, I wish I had taken care of myself when I was much younger. So I think it's a blessing in disguise.
Oh yeah, it really is. I mean, I didn't get sick till I was like 31 or 32 or something. So I wish that, I didn't know that you could completely screw up your health in like 1 year of
Yeah.
just eating like tofu. So, um, so all the young girls out there, listen to us. Don't
Yeah.
do, don't do as we tell you, not as we did. So,
Yeah.
so what's interesting to me is that you came in kind of just like me. I realized right away when I went paleo, I thought it was the answer, and it is in a lot of ways. But you realized you couldn't do high carb paleo or medium carb or whatever right away. Is that right?
Yeah, I went straight into it. Well, because kind of what shifted my diet totally was that I found out I had Candida overgrowth. And so, you know, when you are addressing that, you have to go on a really low carb, low starch, no sugar diet. So I kind of went straight into a Candida diet, which ended up putting me in ketosis. And from then on, because I was just I had so many gut issues, I was reacting to carbs. So I just stayed keto for a a long time. And I really think that was important to just help my gut health. And what's interesting is, you know, I do a lot of diet experiments, and I was I was doing keto until about a year ago, like after carnivore. And then I started experimenting with more carbohydrates because I never had before. And at first it was fine. At first I was tolerating them. And then it was like progressively over the year just getting worse and worse. And it wasn't until like 2 months ago I was looking back just thinking like, how did things get so bad in the last year? And I was like, it was just progressively like ever since I've increased my carbs. And I'm not going to say like that's the sole cause, but that's feeding bacteria that I know my body is fighting. And I think also because I have had some kind of extreme reactions to carnivore. It's like I feel better than before, but I mean transitioning, adapting was very hard for my body, and I think I'm still kind of adapting.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I'm sure I'll be adapting for a while, you know, but I think the fact that I had such kind of crazy adaptation reactions. I mean, things are dying in my body that need to die, like bacteria that need to die is dying. And I think carnivore just helps, just just helps eliminate all of that. It's just easier for me mentally too, you know, to not have to think about like what foods are okay, what foods aren't. Is this going to make me bloated? Like, just eat meat. It's so simple. It saves me so much time.
Yeah, and it's so much easier to clean up, and
Yes.
you don't have 10 pans of Brussels sprouts or whatever. So, w- when, I mean, one thing I worry about on keto is that maybe I was making myself worse with all the nuts and the broccoli. And, now that I'm learning about oxalates and stuff, I wonder if, I was just making myself worse. I mean, I didn't eat a lot of nuts because I couldn't control myself with nuts either. Um, but what do you think about that idea?
I would agree with that. I think that I definitely have issues with nuts. And when you're keto, it's like it's really hard to not go for the nuts or the nut butter, like just to get extra fat, just for like some more variety, you know? And I'm such a texture person. And, you know, with my job, like I develop a lot of recipes, and I think I make so many like keto desserts, and those are so like nut heavy Like just like fat bombs made out of nuts, essentially. And when you're eating a lot of those, I think those really, really disrupt digestion. And I noticed a huge difference. And especially like using carnivore as an elimination diet shows that. I mean, that was one of the things I cheated on last week because I was testing something. And like took a bite of one of my desserts that's like mostly nuts. And I just, within like 20 minutes, I was having horrible shooting stomach pains. I just felt like someone was stabbing my gut. Like, and I was like, wow, these are not for me. But when you're consuming them, weekly, daily, however often you are, you can't tell that that's what's causing the issue, So I think nuts cause issues for a lot more people than realize it. And we look at, how are they found in nature? Cavemen were not eating nuts in quantities that we are. Like, it's like, it was hard for them to get a lot. If they had them, it would be like a once in a while thing, right? And, they had to like get the shell, all of that. So it's a modern day mismatch, essentially. And I think there's a reason why people react to them. We're not designed to eat so many nuts. So I think that's definitely a pitfall with keto. It's really easy to fall into like eating all of the keto friendly treats and like getting away from real food. But even what you're talking about with like the broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and I don't know, it's really easy to overdo it with all of that. And that is tough on the gut. I find that for me personally, cruciferous vegetables just really don't do well with me. And those are like my favorites, right? I love cauliflower, but it's so clear to me that those are what cause so much of my gut distress. And thyroid, I know that's like a controversial thing if they really do or don't cause thyroid issues, but I totally think in excessive quantities they can, even if they're cooked. That's my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that, but I definitely think.
I used to think they didn't because I knew I would cook the crap out of them. So I thought, oh, it's fine. I would make soup with it, and
Yeah.
But then now that I did take them out and I feel so much better, I'm like, maybe they were bad for me,
Yeah. Well, I know for me, my thyroid, I've always been hypothyroid. And then after cutting out cruciferous vegetables, because before I moved to carnivore, I had cut out cruciferous vegetables for a couple months. And when I did that, now my thyroid numbers are normal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think people can get out of control too with like the sauerkraut and that kind of stuff, and that's all. Cabbage is another, and the kale. And then, I have a friend who got really out of control with like the kale smoothies and that kind of thing and totally screwed up her thyroid with that. So, there's definitely something to it. And maybe some people are more sensitive than other people. And just the bloating tells me that they were not agreeing with me. Just that's enough for me. Like, because I always thought, oh, well, I'm in pain, but it's because I'm healthy. Like, that doesn't make any sense,
No, it doesn't. And I think the smoothies are one of the most common things that are messing with people's health and digestion, especially. I know people think that smoothies are so healthy, and I'm just like, they're the worst. Like, like you need to be chewing your food to get all of your enzymes to start secreting so you can digest properly. And it is such a quick hit to your blood sugar. Like, your insulin's going to spike, and digestively, that whenever I have a smoothie, I know I'm going to have diarrhea after. And I know I'm not the only person who experiences that. I see this with so many of my clients and so many people. Who was I listening to? I was listening to, I think it was Dr. Mercola saying this. He's like, yeah, when I have a kale smoothie, it just goes right through me. And and people also pack in so much into a smoothie. Like, if you're going to make a smoothie, it should not ever be what you put in it should be an amount you would eat if it wasn't blended. So if you're putting in a whole container of raw kale, would you really sit there and eat that if it wasn't blended up? Probably not. I think we're just getting so far away from what nature intended. And again, like you said, different people can tolerate different things. And if you have autoimmune disease, you're probably not going to be able to tolerate as much as someone who's totally healthy. Although I'm not sure how many people out there are totally healthy.
That doesn't exist.
Yeah, probably not at all.
As soon as you start talking to them, they'll, even when they're thin, they'll say, yeah, but I have allergies and I can't sleep and I can't go to the bathroom. And you're
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, you're totally healthy.
Very true. It's like everyone in my family.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you look healthy, that's all that matters, you know. But if you look thin in our culture, that's so tell us, you're out in California. What is the idea? What are your practitioners and stuff? What do they think about carnivore?
Yeah, so the person who like suggested it, I've been getting ozone therapy at a place that specializes in Lyme disease here in San Diego, and she's like, just go carnivore. And I was like, all right, you don't have to twist my arm. So obviously she's very open to it. But ironically, the way she found out about it was because she had a patient who follows me and heard me talking about it last year when I first tried it. And so ever since her patient started it and got amazing results, she like started looking into it. So she's super open to it. Other than that, Paul Saladino is down here, so obviously he is all about carnivore. But other than that, um, people are still kind of like not down with it. I think people just it's new for them, and a lot of people haven't researched it that much. And if anything, all the professionals I talked to, they're like, oh yeah, you should eat more vegan or like reduce your animal products, and I just don't say anything because just let me move on. I'm not going to convince them. So I don't know. I think in terms of practitioners, there are some who are open to it, but the majority, I feel like that's not something they know much about, so they don't recommend it. In terms of like holistic nutritionists or just people who are informed in the health space, like LA, San Diego, there's a lot of people who are kind of in the health scene, the paleo scene. And so they're definitely more open to it. But I don't think that, it's definitely not a super common, super accepted way of eating. But I mean, also all my friends are very much like kind of in our space, so no one thinks it's weird what I'm doing. It's been easy for me. Like my friends don't mind that I'm, eating my meat and they're eating whatever they're eating. So
They're used to you trying something different.
yeah, I think everyone's used to me being on some kind of weird experimental diet, so they're like, whatever.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
is it this time? Yeah, it takes a while for your family to be like, what's, like when you go to Thanksgiving, they're like, what are we supposed to bring this year? What can you have? So what do you think about, I know you were already eating like grass-fed and
Mhm.
that kind of thing, and I'm sure you already eat liver and stuff, but in carnivore, it's a big debate over what is necessary and why, if grain fed is healthier, and I mean, if it tastes better, all that kind of stuff. What is your take?
Yeah, so I only eat grass-fed meat. Um, if I do have to have something that's not grass-fed, I'll get a leaner cut and add my own fat, just because, all the toxins are stored in the fat. But I'm also not like crazy person about it. Like if I'm out and I'm getting a steak, I'm not gonna ask where it's from. Like because I'm always cooking for myself, so I'm not like a Nazi about it. But whenever I'm buying anything for myself, I get 100% grass fed. I've had some chicken, so pasture raised. I just get from the farmers market, and I do include organ meats, mostly liver. I love hearts, just kind of whatever the farmer has that I see. I haven't had salmon roe yet because I haven't been able to find it, but I really want to.
All those
Uh,
fancy markets you guys have.
I know it's weird. I haven't been able to find it, and I was asked at the farmers market, and I don't know. I gotta get it, and I tried to get it online, but it was sold out. So, and I just ordered some beef suet, but I haven't tried that yet. Um, I do eat raw dairy. I've been having raw butter, which I've been doing really well with. And I have ghee just to add more fat. And I also eat a mixture of raw meat and cooked meat. Um, I love raw meat. I mean, I started eating raw meat like 3 years ago, um, just for my digestion. And I've also noticed that for me, because I was like healing from so many digestive issues, and I was on a lot of heavy supplements, and I was dealing with a lot of nausea just from day to day. I had to really listen to like what can I stomach right now, and it's been interesting. I noticed that when my stomach is more testy, I do a lot better with like a ribeye or a New York strip. I can't do ground beef when I feel sick or nauseous.
Oh,
I also do better with raw when if my stomach is feeling off. So I have to kind of pay attention to that. The other day I wasn't feeling really well, but all I had was ground beef. So I tried eating it, and I was like, I'm gonna throw up if I have another bite, just because it's like weird. But if it's so I just grabbed a ribeye, and I was totally fine with that. Um, so that's been interesting, kind of like seeing what works best for me, and also figuring out my like fat to protein ratio, because if I'm too high in fat, I have awful diarrhea. If I'm too high in protein, I just feel hungry. And I feel but also for me too, if I'm too high in fat, I'm really hungry all the time. It's like I really have to be in between.
so
Um,
like 50-50 kind of.
yeah, yeah, or even I feel like I feel best at like 65% fat. Um, but and I was like experimenting with how like getting into ketosis, because for a while I wasn't in ketosis, and actually I don't know if I am right now, but I did figure out, because I was trying more of like a PKD approach and doing 80% fat just to see. And literally, I have to be at 80 to 85% fat to be in ketosis,
Oh, wow.
which is crazy. And like, I don't really want to maintain that, so I'm not. But I just wanted to experiment, to see like what would it take to put me in. Um,
And was that a blood meter?
yeah, yeah. I use a Precision Ultra to check my blood. So that was very, very interesting to me. Um, but I'm also such a I'm like a volume eater, and to eat like that is like so little. It's like fat, fat, so not very much. So I didn't really enjoy that either.
I feel like just tracking anything to me is so stressful.
Hmm.
If I had to figure that out, it just would be, and I like ribeye, so I wouldn't be like, oh, is it enough? I'm just, no, I just want to eat the ribeye. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, for my like long-term life, I don't really worry about it, but I I just like to experiment with things, and I know people like the information, and I just like to see my body as a science experiment at this point. So, um, I don't track all the time, but for the purposes of trying to figure out what's it going to take me to get into ketosis, I wanted to know. And I think because there's so many different opinions on carnivore about like protein to fat ratios, um, and like with the PKD approach, and so I like to experiment with things and figure it out. And I think also for me it helps to kind of see if I'm left to my own devices, I won't eat enough fat. Like I'll eat like so much protein and not enough fat. So it does help me to kind of track it and see what that's looking like on my plate. And then once I get used to that, like I don't need to look anymore.
So just kind of check in and see. Now, if people don't know that Paleo Medicina it's like out of Hungary, and they're a special clinic that works on autoimmune patients, and they've done a lot of experiments, and they recommend a very high fat ratio, and they also recommend a lot of organ meats. So you can look that up if you're interested in it.
Yeah.
Um, so what is your day of eating look like?
Yeah, so I eat 2 meals usually. And I don't like care about fasting, but I just kind of naturally, it's probably like a 16/8-ish, but there are days it's not. I don't really worry about it. I just eat when I'm hungry. Um, so I usually eat around 1 and like 7. And it's different, just kind of whatever I have. And again, like I'm kind of listening to how my stomach is feeling. But I do prefer ground beef. Like I just prefer it. So I'm usually doing like at least 1 meal that's ground beef, and then
You mean
maybe
as long as your stomach is feeling okay?
yeah. It's really just like these supplements I was on that were making me nauseous. Um, but I've been off of them for a little bit now, and I feel way better. um, so, and then yeah, maybe I'll do like usually like a ribeye or a New York strip for, I don't know, maybe like 4 times a week. But I prefer ground beef just because it's cheaper. But I like to switch it up, and then if I'm just feel like it, I'll add raw butter or ghee to that. Um, I have a lot of salt. Eat a lot of salt. um, yeah, it's pretty simple. I also do like to um mix different like cuts though. So I'll sometimes do like or different types of red meat. So I'll have like ground beef, but then I'll also sometimes mix in like boar or bison or lamb or whatever else is at the store, just for like more flavor, switch it up. So I do like to like mix.
Oh, I love lamb.
I love lamb, yeah.
Bison, I mean, they don't sell much bison around here. If they do, it all so lean, and it's like, ugh, I'm not gonna, and it's expensive. And like, I'm not gonna pay a lot for that. And then it's not even enough fat. But lamb is so good. Like, I mean, they have pretty good lamb at Costco. I mean, it's from Australia or New Zealand, and they have ground lamb too, some places.
Yeah,
So that is my favorite. So,
yeah.
um, so what do you think about, well, I know Paleo Medicina says no supplements. I mean, do you think some of the supplements can be a problem with, you know, sometimes they exacerbate leaky gut and stuff like that?
I think it depends what you're taking. I mean, I was on a I had started a protocol um before I started carnivore. So like I needed to finish it, and I think it depends what you're working on. So like for me, I was on a SIBO lime herbal protocol. At the end of the day, like I needed those to help my body. So I'm not on any supplements right now, but I wanted to finish that. So it kind of like overlapped with the end. I think it just depends on what you're working through. I think that there are certain people that are, if you have serious health issues, I mean, it's something you need to see a practitioner about, right? Like if you have serious health issues and you have something, you might need some supplements, right? Like um, diet can only take us so far at some point. But there are a lot of people where diet's all you need, and maybe the supplements are causing issues. So I think it's probably good to just take a look at what you're taking. I think people they take supplements every day. A lot of people take supplements every day, and they don't really know why, and a lot of them are unnecessary. Like you don't need a multivitamin. Like don't take a multivitamin, right? Like if you're the type of person who's taking a bunch of random supplements that you just think are helping your health, and you're on a carnivore diet, like don't take those supplements. Like they're just extra. Like the carnivore diet, it's gonna do its work, right? But if you're like on an herbal protocol that your functional medicine doctors put you on to target certain thing in your body, I think that's a different conversation. So hopefully that answers.
Yeah. I mean, it's case dependent, but yeah, if you're taking Bide from Walmart or something, like, then maybe you don't need them. So, so what I was gonna say is, what do you think about, being a woman? Is there anything special that we should think about with carnivore?
Well, I think being a woman, really have to make sure you're eating enough. I don't have this problem because I could eat for days. But I know I feel like I see this a lot, and with clients, it's really common because like meat is so satiating. It's so satiating for people. It's really easy to undereat, and that's just going to tank your hormones. If you're not eating enough food, right? So I think making sure you're eating enough and getting enough fat, really, for your hormones, and not like trying to push. People like push their fasting, and I'm like, you don't need to push your fasting. I think just like let your body tell you what it needs. And if you're like trying to make yourself fast for too long every day, I see that causing a lot of major issues for a lot of women too. So I think those are some of the most important things to take into consideration as a woman. Men can withstand more stressors. Like the male body can just withstand more stressors. So it's easy for them to fast more often for longer. They don't, necessarily have to, I feel like, pay attention to ratios as much, or like they could probably ironically go off of less food and be okay, because the male body is designed to withstand those stressors. They had to be able to go out and hunt and, like not have to eat for a while because they're out there looking for the food. And that wasn't our role.
Yeah, like sleep in a ditch or something.
Yeah. So I think those are the main things I would say. I also think it's interesting how there's the social aspect of it for women. Like if you see a man just eating a steak, no one really cares. But when it's a woman and she's just sitting there eating a couple steaks, or it's this weird thing. And I also
Yeah,
think,
where's your salad?
yeah, I'm like, I don't want a salad. I always tell this story, but it's so funny because at my sister's wedding, everyone was like eating their big dinner, and I just had this huge steak. It was just a 16-ounce steak, and I was sitting there eating it, and everyone was just staring at me like, "Is that what you're eating? Like you're gonna eat the whole thing?" And I was like, "Yes, this is what I'm eating." Like they're like, "No vegetables?" I was like, "No," but if it makes you feel good, it makes you feel good, right? So I think there's just like kind of this social stigma. And on Instagram, it's really interesting because I think that male, I don't know, bloggers, YouTubers, whatever you want to call them, on Instagram, who are showing, just eating steak, being carnivore, they don't get as much backlash as women. Like I got so many people giving me, like, threatening me because I'm eating meat, and I'm like, all I did was take out the vegetables. Like I was always eating. I was never vegan.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's just because there's this like mismatch for people in their brains of what they expect and then what they see you doing, and it's hard for people whenever you challenge their ideas, their
Yeah,
beliefs.
well, I mean, they see you as a cute little girl, and then, probably even on paleo, I mean, I think people still picture like a little thing of broccoli, chicken breast, and a sweet potato or something, this
Mhm.
still normal looking plate, or a big salad with nuts and, a sliver of chicken and olive oil on it, with some berries on it or something. And then, but if you put it in their face, like a big, you know, 20-ounce ribeye, they're going to be like, what? That doesn't, they picture you in some smoothie bar.
Yeah.
So I think they would, yeah, freak out. I mean, I get it too. If I like, I'll just say I'm carnivore, but they don't freak out. But if I say I don't eat veggies, then they freak out. It's like
Yeah.
it's like they think carnivore just means like I like meat, and I'm like, no, it actually means no veggies.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people I'll say like, "Oh, I'm eating carnivore right now," and they think it just means like a lot of meat. They don't realize it's like I'm not eating vegetables. And then they'll be like, "Oh, do you want this?" I'm like, "No, I'm not eating. I'm eating carnivore." People don't realize that. And I think also like in this space, that term is used loosely. I see a lot of people who are keto saying that they're carnivore. Like, yeah, Dave, I've seen this on YouTube. It's like a day of carnivore eating, and they're eating vegetables. I'm like, you're not carnivore. You're
No.
keto. You know, so I mean, carnivore means no vegetables to me, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's
I've been trying to get my mom to do it, and I think even though she understands it, like yesterday she came over and she was eating lunch with my husband because they were like both here, and he gave her like some chicken salad that I had made, but it wasn't for me, it was for him because my husband eats pretty low carb, and it had celery and it had a little onion and stuff. And I was like, Mom, what did you eat? And she's like, Oh, I ate the chicken salad. I'm like, you can't have like onions and celery and and I asked him, what did you make for her? And he's like, well, she had tomato, like tomato mozzarella salad. I'm like, she can't have tomatoes. Like, I
yeah.
mean, but I'm expecting that for her, not for him. I mean, he doesn't care. He doesn't know what she's doing or whatever. But she keeps saying she wants to do it, and I'm like, Mom, you're not getting it. Like, you have to eat no vegetables, not even like a taste of them. I
Yeah.
mean, for it to work, she wants to do it for like mental health. So
Mhm.
so I'm like, if you really want it to work, you have to really go on full on for a little while. So what I want you to tell people, what do you think the difference is between your transition the first time and then this time? And what would you tell people who are wanting to start and like mistakes that you made?
Oh, okay. I think a few things. I mean, my body, I needed, I'm like a unique situation because I needed to address my CBS mutation because I was having issues with sulfur and all this stuff. But the first time, I definitely was eating like way too much fat. Um, I was like, yeah, load on all the fat. And I mean, I didn't eat a lot of fat, but it was like crazy. I was eating like just like the fattiest cuts of meat I could find and then drowning it in
Oh.
ghee. And I just felt sick all the time. And I also was eating like 3 meals a day. And I have found that I do better eating 2 with carnivore. When I'm not carnivore, I need at least 3. But with carnivore, it's like my digestive system just needs more of a break, or it just needs more space, like in between things, because otherwise I feel like it gets overloaded. My system just gets overloaded. And so I'd rather eat 2 really big meals. Um, so I think that was one thing that affected me. Also, histamines do affect me. And I was drinking a lot of bone broth before, which was not helping my situation. But I think for me it was just about like figuring out the fat to protein ratio. And for me it's kind of like somewhere in between. I also made the mistake this time of, because I had that experience last time being way too high fat, this time being way too high protein. I mean, I was eating maybe like 60% protein when I first started, like not realizing. And that's also why tracking helped me, because I was like, God, why do I feel so crappy? Um, I'm hungry, I don't have energy. I have like my digestion is awful. Um, and so realizing that, like, to make sure I was at, a little bit higher fat and not that much protein helped me a lot. Um, I think also any days where I don't add enough salt, I don't feel too well. So I definitely think making sure you add a lot of salt, like when in doubt, more salt really helps. I think those are some of the main things. And also like realizing, like preparing yourself for the adaptation, and that your digestion and energy, things might be off at first. You know, your body, it's a huge shift in your microbiome. Your poop's probably going to be weird. It's like, but like give yourself the chance to transition. And like, if you're craving things, just eat more food, you know, like don't jump into it trying to fast or like trying to eat a certain amount. Cause I know a lot of people come to carnivore for weight loss, and like that shouldn't be the goal. Like you need to focus on your health and like adapting to carnivore. And so I think a lot of people just like don't eat enough. And I think just like eat to satiety, you know, like let your body adapt. And for me, you know, I didn't push through the last time I tried. And if you do have any type of bacterial overgrowth where things are dying off, you're probably gonna go through kind of a crappy adaptation where things die off, and you just gotta push through it and just like believe that it will get better on the other side. And that's what ended up happening for me. I feel like I'm like 90% out of the woods. You know, I'm there, but yeah, definitely the first couple of weeks were rough. So I think just like mentally preparing yourself for that helps a lot, and just being like, I will get through this, and resting more, sleeping more. If you do have keto flu, carnivore flu, whatever you want to call it, those would be my top tips.
That's awesome. So where do you see yourself going with this? Do you think you'll stick with it, or?
I feel like I'll definitely, I don't know, it's hard for me to say because I feel like my body changes all the time. So I don't want to be like, I could see myself being mostly carnivore, but just because of my job, I'd probably be more of a dirty carnivore. So I feel like, well, where I will end up with this in the near future is like eating mostly carnivore. But if I am in a situation where I can't eat carnivore, I won't worry about it that time, you know, like, or if I want a recipe test and I want to take a bite of something, I'll do it. But I probably will be like 95% carnivore is kind of how I see it. But even like, you know, this week I cheated a couple times with like bites of things, and just hated the way I felt. So now I'm like, okay, this week I need to get back on my strict, my strict carnivore to reset myself. And I think also just like finding your limits. Like I have a friend who has been carnivore for like 6 months, and she's like carnivore plus she has berries every once in a while, and it works for her, you know. So it's like maybe it'll look like something like that. Like, but I think figuring out exactly if there is something else I want to add in every once in a while, what it is. Like I know for me, chocolate does not do well, so I won't be the person that's carnivore plus I have a square of dark chocolate every once in a while. I think it's just like finding those limits. So I could see myself being like carnivore as much as possible, but if something has to pop in that's not, I won't stress about it, and I'll just go back to the carnivore. That's kind of how I'm seeing myself right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that word. I mean, that idea like that you're not, just because you eat something that you know, you're out of the club or something. It's like, you know, if on my birthday I like to make like a keto cheesecake or something, like I don't really care about the crust. But if I want to eat that on my birthday, like that makes me feel like I can do it the rest of the year, you know, or if I want to have a Rebel ice cream every once in a while or something, like that's mostly cream, you know, like, I mean, if that keeps me on, but I really don't have sugar cravings, so I really don't even want that. And also it makes me feel bloated, so I really don't want to have it very much. Like every time I do have it, I'm like, it wasn't really worth it, you know? So yeah, I think that just because you have a little bit of something, you know, I think if your motivations are to feel good, you're doing this to feel good, then you're gonna want to go back to feeling good, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I think like the reasons why I would go off are more for social,
Yeah.
right? And
Which is very important.
yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a really important part of health, and like kind of what you were saying before, it's like if you want to stick to something, you have to make it realistic for your life. I think if a big part of my job is like recipe development and food and all of this, so it's like if that was a part of my job, I'd probably have a lot easier time being 100% carnivore for a long period of time. But that's just like a part of my job that I love, that I enjoy. And so I'm not just gonna like, I think that there can be a way to do both, right? As long as I'm mostly carnivore, I'll probably feel my best. So I'm just going to stick with what makes me feel good, and kind of go from there. And then that will allow me to stick with it long term.
Well, that's what I did. I did a month at first. I was like, I'll do it for 30 days. And then I felt so good. I just was like, well, I'll just go another day, another day. And then a year later, I was like, I'm, I was like still into it. So I'm like, okay. Now, just because you mentioned several times like SIBO and uh, what was the other thing? Oh, Lyme, that do you think that carnivore can help you with those kinds of things?
Yeah, I think carnivore can definitely help. Um, I think meat heals. I think meat heals. I think that meat heals unless you have a red meat allergy.
Yeah.
um, so, and it just like, because so much illness is kind of like rooted in, I mean, inflammation, right, is the root of illness. And gut health. It all goes back to the gut, and like eating carnivore allows the gut to heal. It's easy on digestion. And it reduces inflammation. Like all these toxins and plants cause inflammation, and not everyone's bodies can withstand that. So I think carnivore is really helpful in so many infections, illnesses, diseases. And I'm not an expert on all of them, right? So I'm not going to say across the board 100%. No, like I don't know. I'm sure there are many things that maybe meat wouldn't help. I don't know. But for a lot of people, it just puts the body in a state where it can finally heal. Um, and I think it's really helpful for that. It's like, especially with anything with bacteria, that any type of bacteria that's going to feed on carbohydrates. This is great because obviously you're going to starve those bacteria. So I do think it's very helpful. And I think like with Lyme, like the Emmerichs talk about this. That's a good resource. So yeah, I mean, it's all very controversial, but I think especially for gut issues, leaning into more of the carnivore approach is my vote.
I'm with you. I agree. I mean, I was always trying to heal my gut, and this is the first time I feel like, I mean, my skin got so much better. And your skin is just your outward gut lining, so
Yeah.
it's the part you can see. So, yeah, I totally agree. Well, awesome. Well, tell everybody where they can find your stuff and what you're working on now. And
Yeah, so you can find everything from me on my website, which is christinaricewellness.com. And then also on Instagram, I'm Christina Rice Wellness. And I have a podcast called Wellness Realness. I have a few episodes about carnivore. I'll have to do an updated carnivore episode because my last episode about carnivore was from an experiment a year ago. But yeah, those are the main places to find me. And on my website, I have just a ton of content about everything related to health and wellness. I have things about carnivore, obviously. And then I have a membership site on there for more of the sciencey geeks who like to dive deep into nutrition. I'm just looking for more there. So that's where you can find everything from me.
awesome. Well, it's been really fun talking to you today. And everybody, make sure and subscribe to my channel. Push the like button, push the notification bell so you know whenever I have a new episode. And we will see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye bye.